When I was 11 years old, my family moved to Baldwinsville, New York, and I became the new kid for the fifth time. My dad was in insurance, so every time he moved up the corporate ladder, we moved to a new town. I never really had a problem with being the new kid. We would move in the summer, so it didn't disrupt school, and the first few days in our new neighborhood, my mom would walk my siblings and I door to door to see if there were any other kids our age in the neighborhood, and by that afternoon, we were usually out riding bikes. I was never especially quiet or shy, and it was actually kind of exciting to explore a new place. But that was the year I met Nick Embesi. Nick Embesi was also in sixth grade, and he was on my school bus. Being the new kid, he immediately took an interest in me and started calling me Mac. Why Mac? Well, a Mac isn't a Mack truck. They're strong, powerful, they get things done, they're going places. Cool nickname, right? Well, you probably don't know that in sixth grade I had really crooked front teeth with a big gap in the middle. So Nick Embesi called me Mac because he said that a Mack truck had run into my face, and that's why I looked like that. Now, Nick Embesi must have been a really popular kid, or it seemed to me, or else he really liked an audience, because soon all the other kids on the bus were calling me names and teasing me as well. There was all these other boys in my neighborhood. There was Blake Troutman in the blue house on the corner, Mike Panibianco, Danny Swinton. And I lived about half a mile away from the bus stop, so I didn't even have to wait to get on the bus to be teased mercilessly. To me now, half a mile doesn't seem that long, but to sixth grade me, that 10-minute walk was excruciating. Before I even left my house, I could feel the anxiety building up, and the knot in my stomach told me that with every snicker and glance in my direction, those boys were probably teasing and laughing about me. Luckily, I was a really intelligent young child, so I had a strategy. And my strategy was to ignore the bullying. I mean, just ignore him and he'll get bored and stop, right? But Nick Embesi didn't get that message. Nick Embesi wasn't in my advanced classes. He wasn't the strongest, the tallest, or the best-looking kid at my school. But it didn't seem to matter because all he cared about was the opinions of the other boys. He didn't seem to mind what my reaction was. My reaction was irrelevant. It was the other boys he was trying to impress. I kind of suspected that they weren't all that impressed with him either, but they were too worried to speak up because if they didn't laugh at his jokes, maybe they would be the next target. At that same time, there was sort of an explanation for this behavior, and it came from my grandmother. She said, "When a boy teases you, it just means he likes you." Well, if you've never been a sixth grade girl in the early 90s, let me just tell you that that is not true. And also, that is one of the most damaging messages we as a society can teach a young girl. It condones bullying, it encourages violence, it minimizes seriously damaging behavior. I could go on, but that's another story, and that one doesn't always have a happy ending. Unfortunately, this actually wasn't my first experience with childhood bullying, but at that time, my parents invited that kid's parents over for a meeting. They talked it out. The kid never did it again, and we moved shortly thereafter anyway. But this felt different. I was in sixth grade now. I was old enough to babysit my 3 siblings. I practically almost needed a bra. I was an adolescent. I was supposed to handle my own problems. And I think I was too ashamed to tell my parents that I was being teased every day for something that I had no control over. So it continued. But eventually, something happened. Around 8th or 9th grade, I got contacts and braces, and I started dancing and swimming, so the chub in my cheeks relocated lower. And by about 10th grade, I had boobs, and all of a sudden, I looked like this beautiful teenage girl. Now, I know this is going to shock you, but right around that same time, it was the most miraculous thing. Those boys stopped teasing me. In fact, suddenly, they were nice to me. Now, I was confused. I mean, I'm the same girl and these are the same boys, but suddenly they're not laughing and harassing me anymore. And it took me a while to figure it out, but what happened is this. I learned a lesson at that time. What I learned is that if you want people to like you, to respect you, to admire you, you have to be beautiful. That because my appearance had changed, I was going to be treated differently. That before, I was worthless, but now I was invaluable. And so for a while, I walked around and I pretended like I was this new person. Inside, I was still this scared little girl, but nobody else knew that. And for a long, long time, I didn't think about Nick Embesi because I thought I won. Because I was teased for being ugly and then I became beautiful, and so I showed them. But the problem is this. If your self-worth is based on your personality, your values, your spirit, your aspirations, no one can ever take that away from you. But if your personality is based on your appearance, what happens when you gain 80 pounds? When your hair starts turning gray or you see wrinkles, what happens then? And what I realized just this year is that I am still judging myself like those teenage boys were judging me, the exact same way. Sometimes the voices in my head are just as mean as my school bus bullies. When my thoughts are mean, I treat myself accordingly. I might not eat food that's truly nourishing. I might not allow myself to get as much sleep as I really need. How can I be a good person, a compassionate person who is kind and compassionate and loving towards others if I can't even love myself? I think loving yourself is a lifelong process, and it's taken me 38 years to finally realize how important it really is. But you know what? I'm glad it didn't take me any longer because some people never learn it. So now I'm looking inward to determine my own worth. I'm no longer relying on the opinions of others to determine whether or not I am worthy. I've realized that the most important opinion about myself is my own. And for that lesson, I'd like to say thank you, Nick Embesi.